The top 10 most powerful African kings in history, from thrones to thunder. Bow down, royalty incoming. When we talk about kings, most people picture Europe, crowns, castles, and Queen Elizabeth's endless handbag collection. But Africa? Oh, Africa had kings who didn't just rule, they redefined power. These weren't your average monarchs sipping on goblets. No, sir. These were warriors, empire builders, strategists, diplomats, and sometimes full-blown icons of history. Some controlled gold reserves that could crash modern economies. Others commanded armies that would make Caesar sweat. So, polish your mental crown and sit tight, because we're diving into a royal countdown of the top 10 most powerful African kings in history, from number 10 to the undisputed king of kings. 10. King Mohammed VI, Morocco's modern-day money monarch. Let's kick off with a living legend. His Majesty King Mohammed VI of Morocco might not have conquered kingdoms on horseback, but he sure dominates the modern economy like a boss. Since ascending to the throne in 1999, he's turned Morocco into a key player in Africa's economic game. His financial grip on Société Nationale d'Investissement, a multi-billion-dollar investment powerhouse, means he's richer than your average monarch and your neighborhood's entire generational wealth combined. He's invested in banking, mining, insurance, renewable energy, and even agriculture. With influence spreading across North and West Africa, King Mohammed VI is proof that power in the 21st century doesn't always roar. It sometimes quietly signs billion-dollar contracts in a tailored suit. 9. Endibis, the Christian pioneer of Aksum. Way before Europe discovered the perks of Christianity, King Endibis was already wearing the spiritual crown. As one of the earliest kings of the Kingdom of Aksum, modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea, Endibis stamped his name into history by introducing Christianity to the empire in the 4th century. Under his reign, Aksum became a bustling trade empire, connecting Rome, India, and Byzantium. This guy had influence across continents, minted coins with his face, talk about ancient flex, and turned Ethiopia into a Christian kingdom that still holds firm today. You could say Endibis didn't just build a kingdom, he laid the groundwork for a spiritual civilization. 8. Osei Kofi Tutu I, the Gold Coast's warrior king. Imagine building an empire so powerful it still shapes culture centuries later. That's Osei Kofi Tutu I, the man who founded the Ashanti Empire in the 17th century. Not only did he unite scattered Akan states in what is now Ghana, but he also brought in a powerful political and religious symbol, the golden stool, believed to house the spirit of the Ashanti people. Think of it as Wakanda meets Game of Thrones. With a fiercely disciplined army and clever diplomacy, Osei Tutu laid the foundation for one of West Africa's most feared and respected empires. He didn't just rule the land, he ruled the minds and hearts of his people.
7. Menelik II, the king who beat the colonizers at their own game. Ethiopia had one word for European colonizers: nope. And that resistance had a name: Menelik II. During the scramble for Africa, while other nations were being carved up like Sunday suya, Menelik II outsmarted, outfought, and outmaneuvered the Italians at the Battle of Adwa in 1896. He not only preserved Ethiopian independence, but humiliated one of Europe's so-called superpowers. And this king wasn't just about war. He built roads, introduced electricity, and even set up a postal system. Basically, while colonial governors were still figuring out maps, Menelik II was modernizing Ethiopia like a pro. 6. Mswati III, Africa's last absolute monarch standing. Meet King Mswati III, the ruler of Eswatini, formerly Swaziland, and one of the last remaining absolute monarchs in all of Africa. Since taking the throne in 1986, Mswati III has reigned with near total control over the executive, legislative, and judicial arms of government. In short, the man doesn't just lead, he is the system. He signs the national checkbook, drafts the rules, and doesn't need a parliament to co-sign because in his house, the crown speaks last. Of course, he's no stranger to headlines, often gracing them with tales of lavish spending, a fleet of exotic cars, multi-million-dollar palaces, and a string of royal weddings. But beneath the tabloid flair lies a monarch who has skillfully navigated decades of political pressure, maintaining the cultural fabric of his nation while juggling the demands of a rapidly changing region. Through it all, Mswati has managed to preserve Eswatini's unique identity, hosting elaborate Nkwala and Umhlanga reed dance ceremonies that draw thousands each year. He walks the line between tradition and modernity with the confidence of a man draped in leopard skin robes, a beaded crown, and designer sunglasses. Royalty, but make it fashion. Love him or criticize him, King Mswati III is a symbol of enduring monarchical power in a continent that's mostly moved on, and he's not giving up that throne anytime soon. 5. Oba Oduduwa, the mythical father of a civilization. Now we journey into legend, literally, because Oba Oduduwa, the revered founder of Ila Ife, isn't just a king, he's the ancestral father of the Yoruba people, the sacred thread in the tapestry of their identity. Some say he descended from the heavens on a chain, carrying a rooster, a handful of earth, and a mystical staff to create land on the primordial waters. Others claim he was a wise leader who migrated from the east, possibly ancient Egypt or Nubia, bringing with him knowledge, spirituality, and political structure. Whichever version you believe, one thing is clear. Oduduwa wasn't just a ruler, he was a revolution. He laid the foundation for Yoruba kingship, establishing the sacred throne of Ile Ife and its deep spiritual connection to the gods. He shaped the religious, cultural, and political frameworks that still govern Yoruba society today. Ile Ife wasn't just a city, it became the navel of the world in Yoruba cosmology, a holy ground, a center of creation. Every Yoruba Oba, king, from Lagos to Oyo to Ekiti, traces his divine lineage back to Oduduwa. His name is invoked in coronations, rituals, and even modern-day politics. That's not just power, it's immortality through culture, bloodline, and legend.
4. Amenhotep III, Egypt's golden pharaoh of peace and power. Luxury, diplomacy, architecture that made the gods jealous, that's Amenhotep III, Egypt's 18th dynasty rock star ruler, the original king of soft power wrapped in gold and linen. Between 1391 and 1353 BC, Amenhotep ruled during what many historians call Egypt's Golden Age, a time of peace, opulence, and international prestige. While other pharaohs were off swinging swords, Amenhotep was hosting state banquets, forging diplomatic marriages, and exchanging gifts with kings across Mesopotamia like it was a royal group chat. He married foreign princesses from Babylon, Mitanni, and Syria, using marriage as a political chess piece rather than a battlefield. His monuments? Massive. His ego? Possibly bigger. He built so many temples and statues, most notably the Colossi of Memnon, which still loom over Luxor, that ancient Egypt started to feel like a showroom of his greatness. And let's not forget his temple at Luxor and the palace complex at Malkata, which were basically the Beverly Hills of the Nile. He fathered Akhenaten, the heretic who tried to replace Egypt's pantheon with a single sun god, and grandfathered Tutankhamun, the boy king whose tomb would become a modern pop culture obsession. Amenhotep III didn't just rule, he curated Egypt's glow-up, and centuries later, his legacy is still shining through museum glass, Instagram reels, and dusty archaeology textbooks. 3. Sunni Ali, the ruthless river conqueror of Songhai. Now we're getting deadly. Sunni Ali, the first ruler of the Songhai Empire, was less king and more military tornado with a crown. In the 15th century, he didn't just build an empire, he forged the largest empire in West African history through sheer force, strategy, and relentless conquest. He captured Timbuktu. Yes, that Timbuktu, the legendary center of Islamic scholarship, and turned it into a military stronghold. He crushed the Tuareg rebels, took control of key trade routes, and ruled the Niger River like he owned Poseidon's job description. Sunni Ali's mastery over both land and river warfare made his army nearly unstoppable. His soldiers could paddle, charge, and pierce all in one coordinated strike. Think of them as the Navy SEALs of the Sahel, but with spears, boats, and no mercy. Sunni Ali didn't care much for diplomacy, he rolled with an iron will wrapped in a war drum. Though he practiced a blend of traditional African religion and Islam, he was known to be fiercely independent in religious affairs, often clashing with Muslim scholars and clerics. Even centuries later, his name rumbles through Mali's historical memory like distant thunder. Sunni Ali wasn't just a king, he was a storm in human form, and when he moved, nations fell. 2. Mansa Musa, the richest human in history. Yes, really. If there was a world record for too much money, Mansa Musa would hold it without competition. The 13th century emperor of Mali didn't just have gold, he basically was gold. When he embarked on his legendary pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, he brought with him a caravan so extravagant it looked like something out of a myth. 60,000 men, thousands of camels, and tons of gold. And he didn't hoard it, he gave it away like party favors, showering Cairo, Medina, and Mecca with such generosity that he devalued gold in Egypt for over a decade. Yes, one man's giving spirit literally caused an economic crisis. Let that sink in.
His empire wasn't just wealthy, it was gigantic, covering modern-day Mali, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, and Niger, and rich in culture, commerce, and innovation. Mansa Musa invested in education, architecture, and religious infrastructure, commissioning schools, mosques, and the iconic University of Timbuktu, which became a beacon of Islamic scholarship and African intellectual power. Mansa Musa wasn't just rich, he was global headline rich before global headlines even existed. He was the first African ruler to make the world sit up and say, "Wait, who is this guy?" If Forbes had existed back then, he wouldn't just make the cover, he'd own the magazine repeatedly. Number 1. Shaka Zulu, the warlord who reshaped an entire region. Drumroll please. Taking the number 1 spot is none other than Shaka Zulu, the most feared, revered, and mythologized African king in history. Born around 1787, Shaka transformed the Zulu nation from a modest clan into a military juggernaut that would shake the very core of southern Africa. He revolutionized warfare, trading in the old-fashioned throwing spears for short stabbing spears called ikwila, a weapon designed for up-close devastation. He introduced relentless military drills, enforced iron discipline, and shaped his warriors into a fearless, unified force that moved like one organism on the battlefield. His legendary bullhorn formation, a tactical pincer movement, was as elegant as it was lethal, surrounding enemies like nature closing in on prey. But Shaka's brilliance didn't stop at weapons and tactics. He created a tightly controlled society where loyalty was law, and his charisma turned ordinary men into loyal killing machines. His campaigns didn't just win battles, they triggered mass migrations, tribal reorganizations, and a historical ripple effect known as the Mfakane, the crushing, which altered the entire regional landscape. His methods were brutal. His enemies feared him. His warriors worshipped him. He didn't just expand territory, he rewrote the political and cultural geography of southern Africa by force, fear, and unrelenting ambition. And though he was assassinated in 1828, stabbed by his half-brothers, his legacy roared on. Statues, songs, and stories still echo his name across the continent. Shaka Zulu wasn't just a king, he was a force of nature, a thunderstorm wrapped in a leopard skin, whose thunder is still heard in African history today. And the crown lives on. There you have it, 10 kings who weren't just rulers, but architects of nations, makers of legacies, and literal history makers. From economic titans to divine founders, military masterminds to cultural icons, Africa's royal legacy is as rich, vast, and vibrant as the continent itself. So, the next time someone mentions kings and queens, don't stop at Europe. Point them to the Nile, the Sahel, the Gold Coast, the Cape, because that's where real power once roared. And hey, if you enjoyed this royal rundown, like, subscribe, and drop your favorite African king in the comments. Long live the legends!